Ultimate Fighting Championship started in 1993, put together to find which style of fighting would win in an actual bout. The legendary Gracie clan with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu got the better of karate, boxing, wrestling, and kickboxing. It's become so popular now, it offers 12 to 14 live pay-per-view events annually. And you might be thinking, how does it compare to boxing? Well, you can strike with your legs. You can wrestle as well in UFC. Of course, you can't in boxing. It's not a tough man competition. It's not no holds barred either. No strikes to the groin, no gouging. It has sought out state regulation, not run from it. They fight 5 rounds as opposed to 12, but frequently it does end via KO or tap out. All right, let's talk about this. Let's welcome in right now boxing promoter Lou DiBella and UFC commentator and all-round personality Joe Rogan. Joe, let me start with you. Will mixed martial arts peak and fall like kickboxing, or will it become a permanent part of the sports culture?
Well, I certainly think it's a permanent part of the sports culture. It's a much more exciting sport than any of the other combat sports that are out there right now. And that's why it's here, and that's why it's the fastest-growing sport in the world.
Lou, what do you think of UFC?
I'm not a big fan, but I tend to agree with Joe that it seems to have a fan base. It's one company dominating an entire industry. My guess is that as long as they can continue to get young white guys to watch, they're gonna be there for a long time.
Do you think it stays around? Does it compete with boxing or overtake boxing, Lou?
It's got nothing to do with boxing, the same way wrestling has nothing to do with boxing. It's a different form of entertainment. It's in a cage.
Yeah, but pro wrestling is fake. I mean, this is actual combat competition, Lou. That's very different from WWE.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's sort of like human cockfighting in my view, or pit bull fighting. Guys are elbowing each other to the heads. Guys are kneeing each other. They get into leg locks and start rolling around on the ground in submission holes.
Joe, you can't respond to that first, Joe.
How is that human cockfighting? You know what that is? That's actual fighting. You know what boxing is? Well, boxing is a very limited form of fighting. It's kind of a silly agreement. Say, like, we hate each other, we're going to fight, we're going to duke it out man to man, but we're only going to use our hands. That's it. What ultimate fighting is, it's the actual sport of fighting. It encompasses all aspects of fighting: ground game, kicking, punching, elbows, submissions, all the above. That's why it's much more exciting. That's why it's a much more dynamic sport. What boxing is one aspect of mixed martial arts.
If we ever advertise boxing matches on ESPN or HBO or any place else with blood splats like you do on your Spike TV show, the State Athletic Commissions would jump all over us. It's a different form of entertainment.
I have nothing to do with how they advertise it. I don't agree that blood is a very important part of the sport, and I actually don't agree that elbows are a very important part of the sport. You know, I think there's some aspects of the sport that can be changed or moved around, but the most important thing is that it's the sport of fighting. And what boxing is sport of punching. That's all it is. And there's so many aspects of boxing that are really ineffective, that don't really work in a real fight. All the bobbing and weaving and shoulder rolling, all the beautiful moves that Pernell Whitaker and James Toney and some of those. Well, I'm a boxing fan. I love boxing.
No, you're not a boxing fan.
I mean, there's some great. Yes, how do you say I'm not a boxing fan?
Because you don't get it. It's a science. Defense is as important as offense. Guys like you would never
totally
care
understand.
about Willie Pep or Pernell Whitaker or Floyd Mayweather.
First of all, you're wrong. I just said Pernell Whitaker. You don't know me, and you don't know what I'm a fan of. I am a fan of boxing. It's a beautiful sport, but it's a sport that encompasses one aspect of fighting. What ultimate fighting is a sport of fighting. What you guys don't understand, you guys are a dying breed. You boxing guys, oh, it's humans cockfighting. What you don't understand is your sport is getting swallowed. It's getting swallowed by a greater, more efficient, more spectacular sport.
Hey,
it's not BS. It's slowly getting swallowed. The famous people that you have right now are the only famous people that are going to exist in the future for boxing. The Oscar De La Hoyas, the Bernard Hopkins, the Jermaine Taylors, the guys that were already famous before UFC came along. There will be no new ones.
Hey, Lou,
they will all go to MMA.
Lou, can boxing respond to a sport that has cohesive marketing? Again, you're going to represent your fighters, but not the sport as a whole. So can boxing match that?
It's very difficult when you have one company dominating the whole world. Most of the product, other than UFC, is complete garbage. UFC is well packaged.
That's not true at all.
Well,
that's not true at all. This WEC has excellent fights. Pride has excellent fights. There's the IFL. There's a lot of organizations that put on great fights. Bulldog Fights put on excellent fights. I don't know anything, dude. I lease my car. I don't even own my house. I got a mortgage. You don't even know what you're talking about. You telling me that I'm not a boxing fan. Dude, you're a guy who's taking this all very personal because you realize your sport is getting swallowed.
I'm not screaming about your sport
It's going to go away. You are saying that I'm not even a boxing fan. You're saying that I don't like Willie Pep. Meanwhile, I have a collection of DVDs DVDs of old fights. I've got all sorts of old fights on DVD that I watch. I love boxing. I am a boxing fan, a huge Roberto Duran fan.
Lou, I think, has the salient point here, and that boxing has kind of done it to itself. But recently, first, guys, I want you to respond to this. I spoke to both top fighters in each sport very recently, Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather, the welterweight champion of the world, and Chuck Liddell. They both had quite a bit to say about the other sport.
I mean, I feel the guys that's in the UFC couldn't make it in boxing, so they chose the UFC. I mean, they fight for like, what, 12 minutes, tattoo their head, put a couple piercings in their lip, in their ear, whatever, and go out there and fight for a street fight for 12 minutes.
He couldn't cut it in our sport. I mean, I got a 135-pounder that lives with me that would drop him on his head. He wouldn't make it out of the first round, you know. So he's 150 pounds. It's taking him down would be easy. I mean, it's not. It wouldn't be a fight.
Lou, let's start with you. Respond to both guys there.
They may both be right. I said from the beginning, it's apples and oranges. They may both be right. I don't think Floyd would do very well in a street fight in a cage, and I don't think that if the following boxing rules, these guys that are experts in various forms of fighting are going to be able to walk in there and deal with the science of a Floyd Mayweather. So I tend to think they're probably both right.
Joe?
Well, for Floyd Mayweather saying that these guys couldn't make it in boxing, much of them started out with wrestling or grappling backgrounds. A lot of guys started out with judo backgrounds or wrestling backgrounds, and mixed martial arts or the Ultimate Fighting Championship is the first avenue that they have for, you know, to compete as a professional athlete in their sport. I mean, they have these guys we have in the UFC that have fought in the Olympics. We have guys that have wrestled in the Olympics that didn't have an avenue for professional competition before the UFC. You know, I think boxing is a great sport, but it is that. It is a sport, and it is a limited sport in the fact that it is one aspect of fighting. It is one aspect of mixed martial arts.
And yet, Joe,
I would say
right.
all aspects put together.
I would just say with hands, I think guys using their hands because it is limited, it is, to me, more aesthetically pleasing. At the same time, I think you have to give respect to the guys in jiu-jitsu and everything else. Lou DiBella, Joe Rogan,
it's not aesthetically pleasing to me. I think that jiu-jitsu is very aesthetically pleasing.
No, I think it is
if you
too,
understand
but,
the game, if you know what's happening.
Quick submissions is not as fun as guys who will have to open up their hands and use combinations.
I completely disagree.
Sort of thing.
I completely
we'll
disagree.
Do it another time.
A
Joe?
Beautiful rear naked choke.
Thank you so much.
Come
Joe
on, man,
Rogan
this is exciting.
And Lou DiBella.
Lou DiBella,
I
love you. Big kiss.
Take care, Joe.
Let's go through some history here.